Hi everyone. Today we'll be talking about an interesting topic. We'll be talking about chains or beads or necklaces and a type of question that is quite common on the SAT writing section. Now, when I talk about chains or beads or necklaces, I'm talking about stuff like this, or even this. You know, the beautiful ones that women typically wear to social events. So, on every writing section of the SAT, there are about 3 to 5 questions that look like this. The College Board calls them introduction, conclusions, and transitions. But mm, let's just say they're doing way too much. We call them connect and clarify questions, and in a minute we'll talk about why we call them that. Also, at first you might think this question looks like every other SAT writing question you've seen, but later on in this video, I will show you how to recognize this question, how it is different from every other sort of question, and how to get it correctly. It turns out that connect and clarify questions are quite straightforward if you know what they're asking you to do and how to think through them. And it turns out also that chains are a pretty good way to think through connect and clarify questions. Well, what is a connect and clarify question? A connect and clarify question is a question like this, where the underlined word or phrase and the given options are ones that connect and clarify. That is, these words or phrases connect two ideas and clarify the relationship between the ideas. Now, let's think about this. What are the words or phrases that connect and clarify? There are probably dozens of these, but here are some that appear most commonly on the SAT. In other words, therefore, for instance, however, as such, moreover, in addition, for these reasons, likewise, for example, in contrast, nevertheless, thus, consequently, previously, similarly, hence, nonetheless, alternatively, finally, although, furthermore, and subsequently. To continue, let's ask ourselves this question. What do we mean when we say these words or phrases connect and clarify? What we mean by this is that they tell us how one idea is related to another idea. For example, let's say we have two ideas. One idea is, I love to swim, and the other idea is, I love to run. One way to relate the two ideas is this. I love to swim. Likewise, I love to run. Another way is this. I love to swim, therefore, I love to run. Yet another way is this. I love to swim. In addition, I love to run. In these examples, the words or phrases that connect and clarify are likewise, therefore, and in addition. They each relate the two ideas in different ways. With likewise, the relationship is something like, just like I love to swim, I love to run. In other words, the second idea is just like the first idea. With therefore, the relationship is something like, because I love to swim, I love to run. That means the second idea is caused by the first idea. With in addition, the relationship is something like, I love to swim, also, I love to run, which means the second idea is said as an addition to the first idea. Here are a few other connect and clarify questions from the SAT to give you a feel for what these questions look like. Here, the connect and clarify question is number 27. And you can tell this from the underlined word and the given options, which as you can see are however, in addition, and likewise. Here, with question 34, the connect and clarify words and phrases are, for example, in contrast, and nevertheless. I am guessing that by now you can tell why chains or beads are a good way to understand this type of question. That is because chains are all about connection of one link to another. With chains, you have one link, a connection, and another link. Here, these are beautiful beads that have that structure. A link, a connection, another link. You can see here too. A link, a connection, and another link, and so on. By now, you are probably itching to know, how do I answer this kind of question? Well, here's how in 3 steps. Number 1, you read a few sentences before and a few sentences after the underlined word or phrase. Step 2, you decide what is the relationship between the idea before the underlined word or phrase and the idea after the underlined word or phrase. And step 3, you choose the option that shows that relationship. I am sure by now you've had enough of the theorizing. So let's apply this strategy to an actual SAT question. Question 9 here is from the writing section of an actual SAT test. As always, we can tell that it's a connect and clarify question by looking at the underlined words and the options, which in this case are, for example, similarly, however, and subsequently. The first step is to read before and after the underlined phrase. Let's go ahead and do that. Before the underlined phrase, we have Schindler and Brodsky's findings were shown off by the journal Science. The research demonstrated a clear correlation between introducing phosphates and the growth of blue-green algae. Circle that right here so we can kind of identify it. That's the idea before the underlined phrase. After the underlined phrase, it says, legislators in Canada passed laws banning phosphates in laundry detergents, which had been entering the water supply. Okay? So this is the idea after the underlined phrase. The second step is to figure out the relationship between the two ideas. The idea before the underlined phrase is that research shows that there is a correlation or a relationship between introducing phosphates and the growth of algae. The idea after the underlined phrase is that legislators passed laws banning phosphates. Well, what's the relationship between these two ideas? One logical relationship is that after the research showed that introducing phosphates and the growth of algae are related, legislators chose to ban phosphates. That makes logical sense. Now, the final step. Let's go to the options and see which one means something like after. The first option is no change, which also means sticking with, for example. It doesn't make any sense that the legislators banning phosphates is an example of what the research demonstrated. The ban is not an example of the research. So, A is out. Option B is similarly. Once again, it's illogical to say that the legislator's ban is similar to the research findings. That is not the relationship between the research finding and the legislator's ban. So, that's not correct once again. Option C is however, which is a way of showing that one idea is an opposite or contrast of another idea. Like before, it does not follow to say that the legislator's ban of phosphates is in opposition to the research finding that phosphates are associated with algae. And it's easier to tell this if you read even further before, which we do not show here. So once again, however, is out of it. Option D is subsequently, which means after. Now, this makes sense. It connects the two ideas by saying, after the research showed that the introduction of phosphates is correlated with the growth of algae, legislators chose to ban phosphates. That makes sense. After the research showed something bad, the legislators chose to make a ban. So subsequently, option D is the correct answer. Remember once again, the three steps are: number one, read before and after the underlined word or phrase to get the ideas there. Number two, decide on how the ideas before and the ideas after the underlined word or phrase are related. For example, the idea before may be a cause and the idea after may be an effect, or the idea after may be an example of the idea before. Number three, choose the option that shows this relationship you've decided on. By now, you know what to do next. Two things. Number one, practice this strategy on as many connect and clarify SAT questions as possible. And number two, if you have any questions on this strategy, leave them for me below in the comment section. Thank you.